Hi, Green Lanterns. Today is April 24th, 2020. We are going to talk about the religion and government of the Roman Empire today. Our learning target is I can describe the government and religion of the Roman Empire. And we're going to watch this video. Great job. You've already started. We're reading half the chapter today, pages 385 through 389. And then there are a few questions to complete on Schoology today. So before we get started and talk about the religion and the government, let's talk about what happened after Julius Caesar was assassinated, that he was essentially stabbed in the back by his friend Brutus. So after Caesar's death, Rome plunged into another civil war. 27 BC, Caesar's grandnephew Octavian announced that he would restore power to the republics. We're going back to a republic. Lots of government and political change in Rome. In reality, he retained all the power and was in complete control. He took the title of Augustus. So he fooled and bamboozled the Roman government. In 27 BC, it marked the end of the Roman Republic and the beginning of the Roman Empire. So it was a long era of peace with Augustus. It lasted till 180 AD, or CE, the Common Era. It was called the Pax Romana, or the Roman peace. This was 200-year era of peace and prosperity, and it helped the Roman Empire reach its peak. During this time, they created the Forum, which was a complex government buildings, meeting halls, temples, theaters, and monuments, and it was the heart of the Rome's religious business and government life. And we know that they had adopted many Greek gods, and then they adapted them to their lifestyle. They believed that the gods controlled their daily lives, that homes had altars where families worshipped its own household gods and spirits, and eventually Romans honored their emperors as gods. So remember, we are 4,849 miles away from home here in the Roman Empire, and we're going to start talking about that daily life, more specifically the government and religion. So if you want to open up your Schoology assignment so you can read the questions while I am reading pages 385 through 389 to you, you can answer it as we go along. So how did wealth affect daily life in the Roman Empire? Around 1000 CE, the Roman Empire was at height of its power. All roads led to Rome, boasted the Romans. For thousands of miles, road markers showed the distance from a location to Rome, just like our highways do today. But more than road connected the empire's 50 million people. They were also connected by Roman law, Roman customs, and Roman military might. In Rome was the center of the empire. The Forum was the center of Rome. The word forum means gathering place. The original forum was an open area used for merchants, stalls, and for viewing races, games, and plays. Eventually, the forum became a sprawling complex of government buildings, meeting halls, temples, theaters, and monuments. This place was the heart of life in Rome. In this lesson, you will visit the bustling center of Rome's vast empire. You will learn about different areas of life in ancient Rome, including how the Romans ran their government and spent their spare time. You will also find out where the Romans lived and how they practiced religion. By examining these aspects of ancient Roman culture, you will discover how life drastically differed from the rich and the poor. Daily life in Rome also varied greatly for men and women. As you explore the daily lives of the Romans, note how similar or different they are to your daily life. So, Section 1, Daily Life in Ancient Rome. If you had visited Rome in the 1st century CE, you would have encountered a city of great contrasts. Nearly 1 million people resided in the empire's capital city. Although Rome was full of beautiful temples, stately palaces, and flowering gardens, most of its people lived in tiny apartments crammed into narrow, dirty streets. In the city's forum or public gathering places, wealthy women, Roman women, shopped for goods accompanied by their slaves. Proud senators strolled about protected by their bodyguards, while soldiers marched through the streets. Merchants and craftspeople labored at their trades, while foreigners roamed in the streets for such away places as Britain, Spain, and Egypt. In the midst of it all were Rome's slaves, hundreds of thousands of them, many of them captured in war. People and goods flowed into Rome from the four corners of the empire, as well as from China and India. Wealthy Romans spent enormous sums of money on skills, jeweled weapons, perfumes, and musical instruments. They decorated their homes with statues, fountains, and fine pottery. However, the rich were only a small portion of Rome's population, since the majority of the city's people lived in filthy neighborhoods filled with crime and disease. Their children were lucky to survive past age 10. To keep the poor from turning into an angry, dangerous mob, Roman emperors donated food and provided entertainment such as gladiator contests and chariot races. The empire had many large cities. Most people lived in the countryside, where most of people were also poor. Some worked with owned small farms, but others labored on huge estates owned by the rich. Section 2, Law and Order. The Romans always believed in the rule of law. In the days of the Republic, the Senate and the assemblies were important sources of law. But in the empire, the ultimate source of law was the emperor. As one Roman judge stated, whatever pleases the emperor is the law. Even in the empire, however, Romans honored some of their old traditions. The Senate continued to meet, and senators had high status in society. They developed their own styles of clothing, which may have included special rings, pins, or togas, robes, trimmed with a wide purple stripe. Important senators hired personal bodyguards who carried fasces, bundles of sticks with an axe in the center. The fasces were symbols of the government's right to punish lawbreakers. When they carried inside the city, the axe was removed to symbolize the right of Roman citizens to appeal a ruling against them. Roman laws were strict but necessary since crime was common in Rome. The most frequent crimes were stealing, assault, and murder. Roman police protectively watched wealthy neighborhoods but rarely patrolled the poor sections of the city. In fact, some streets were so dangerous that they were closed at night. To pay these officers, the Roman government taxed its citizens. Romans tried to protect themselves against crime. Rich men attempted to hide their wealth by wearing old, dirty togas when they traveled at night. Women and children in rich families were told never to go outdoors alone, even during the day. Any Roman, including the poor, could accuse someone else of a crime. A jury of citizens decided the case. Accused persons sometimes tried to win the jury's sympathy by wearing rags or dirty clothes to court, or by having their wives and children sob in the front of the jury. Romans believed that one law should apply to all citizens. Still, under the empire, Roman law was not applied equally. The poor, who were often not citizens, faced harsher punishments than the rich, sometimes even torture. Section 3, Religion. Religion was important to the Romans. As you may know, the Romans adopted many Greek gods. They also adopted gods from other cultures to create their own group of gods. Romans wanted to please their gods because they believed that these deities controlled their daily lives. At Rome's many temples and shrines, many people made offerings and promises to the gods. They often left gifts of food, such as honey cakes and fruit. They also sacrificed animals, including bulls, sheep, and oxen. When someone was sick or injured, Romans would leave a small offering at a temple in the shape of a hurt part of the body. For instance, they might leave a clay foot to remind the god which part of the body to cure. While festivals and holidays, or holy days, were held throughout the year to honor the gods, religion was also a part of daily life. Each home had an altar where the family worshipped its own household gods and spirits. The family hearth or fireplace was sacred to the goddess Vesta. Once a year, during the main meal, the family threw a small cake into the fire as an offering to Vesta. Eventually, the Romans came to honor the emperors as gods. One emperor, Caligula, had a temple constructed to house a statue of himself made of gold. Every day, the statue was dressed in the type of clothes that Caligula was wearing that day. As the empire grew, foreigners brought new forms of worship to Rome. The Romans welcomed most of these new religions as long as they didn't encourage disloyalty to the emperor. Section 4, Family Life. Family life in the Rome was ruled by paterfamilies, or father of the family, a Roman father's word law in his own home. Even his grown sons and daughters had to obey him. Roman men were expected to provide for their family. In richer or poorer families, both husbands and wives needed to work in order to feed the care for themselves and their children. Wealthy Roman women ran their households. They bought and trained their family slaves. Many had money of their own and were active in business. They bought and sold property. Roman babies were usually born at home. The Romans kept only strong, healthy babies. If the father didn't approve of newborn, it was left outside to die or to be claimed as a slave. Romans found it strange that other people, such as the Egyptians, raised all their children. Babies were named in special ceremony when they were 9 days old. A good luck charm called a bula was placed around the baby's neck and worn throughout their childhood. Between the ages of 14 and 18, a Roman boy celebrated becoming a man. In a special ceremony, he offered his bula along with his childhood toys and clothes to the gods. Roman girls did not have ceremony to mark the end of childhood. They became adults when they were married, usually between the ages of 12 and 18. Weddings were held at a temple. The bride wore a white toga with a long veil. The groom wore a white toga along with leather shoes that he had shined with animal fat. However, the new husband did not become a paterfamilias until his own father died. Hopefully, you got through some of the answers for your Schoology assignment today during that reading. If not, make sure that you go back and do that. Make sure if you need help that you use this video, rewind, pause, fast forward, whatever you need. I think the mailman is about to come, so I'll see you all later. Bye.